with that noted, let's move on to the first topic, which again is Labour councillor Martyn Rawlinson declaring transphobic abuse of Lib Dem councillor Phoenix Adair deserved. I'll say justified, but the actual term they stated was deserved, so I just want to cover my rear in that regard. This story actually goes all the way back to the 10th of December, or at least when it gained notoriety, as gay Muslim councillor Pav Akhtar opened up about having experienced homophobia inside Preston Council. This is in Lancashire, during a full council meeting. This was over discussion on a motion to extend equality training among councillors on the subject of trans and non-binary awareness. Pav stated, "I have practical experiences of colleagues in our own council making homophobic remarks, sometimes behind my back, on one occasion to my face." Pav added that, quote, "Raising awareness is part of it, but becoming actively anti-homophobic and anti-transphobic is another really important part of that, and that we've got to take it a step further. It's not enough to raise awareness." These points will become very important as the rest of this case sort of unfurls. So again, it's what this is sort of really getting at is the whole idea of just, you know, symbolically raising awareness and like making sure that people understand a bit about the topics. Doesn't really do much to actually tackle the bigotry. Yeah, when people humanize, you know, trans people, etc., they're less likely to be bigoted, but it's not an end-all to everything. So you do really have to tackle it, you have to challenge it, otherwise people just think they can get away with transphobia and homophobia. So it was a really good point. To note, the bill was passed unanimously, and alongside it the council also voted to fly the transgender flag from the town hall during Transgender Awareness Week every November. So it seems like whilst there were quite clearly issues here, things were moving forward, the bill got passed, no one challenged it or anything, so, you know, things seem to be moving forward. Of course, Pav's experience was then reported by local papers, specifically the Lancs Live, a local news group, and they published an article on the 18th of December. However, not everyone was happy about this. This drew the anger of fellow councillor Martyn Rawlinson, leading him to tweet out that, quote, "Lancs Live reporting completely unsubstantiated claims of bigotry at Preston Council. The Lib Dem leader falsely stating that it was Labour councillors and the accuser refusing to say what, when or who. Just another day in the post-truth media era." So just the post-truth media era just like kind of echoes the, what is it, fake news in America?
Yeah.
I don't know if like, it just kind of struck me in that.
It's the fancy British version.
It's the fancy British version of fake news. So that was kind of a bit, fact is, there's a lot of reasons why someone may not want to name specific names. For one, they might believe that the person can, you know, be worked upon, and they feel that, hey, if I out them as this bigot, you know, maybe I'm not going, like, maybe we're not going to get the chance to help them understand. Maybe they are just going to, you know, be removed, and then that's just going to cause them to like view standing up to bigotry as a problem, and they're just going to dig in and double down on all this. You know, whether that's the case is questionable and debatable, but there are reasons to like keep the names private, and it's also a person's right to do that. A person doesn't have to point fingers and possibly provoke lashback, you know, over everything, which is something that sadly happens. Whenever you name someone as having done something, suddenly everyone gets up in arms about it. I've experienced this recently myself. So, you know, there are various reasons.
It opens you up to backlash from them, their friends, basically anyone who likes them, anyone who could politically benefit from them. People start making assumptions. It's a whole thing. There are so many reasons not to name names.
And the thing is, Pav actually explained the fact that the reason they didn't name names is they wanted to work with these people and not to create like this sort of division, etc. It's a council, everyone knows everyone sort of thing. So that they did explain that, and it's kind of surprising how someone would come out lashing like that. Because again, the paper didn't say that this is definitely guaranteed, that just that Pav has stated this thing has happened, which is an unremarkable statement. We have no reason to believe it isn't the case, as with most victims.
Hey guys, homophobia and transphobia exists.
Yeah. So again, it's a bit surprising, like how aggressively he came out about it, which kind of seems like a degree of defensiveness that has underlying implications, as we'll go on to see in a second. Now, Rawlinson then came under fire on the 17th of December when local Lib Dem councillor, Phoenix Adair, who, again, they are in the audience, hello, condemned them for liking 2 transphobic tweets. The first was a tweet telling trans people, specifically trans women, that they, quote, do not give permission to have the word woman appropriated, end quote. The second was a follow-up tweet by the same person, mocking others who explained how sexist it was to reduce women down to nothing but their genitals, whilst also noting the existence that trans men exist, and some of them have vaginas. So, this person was, first of all, no one is appropriating the word woman. They're just acknowledging the fact that it includes trans women. Also, not everyone who has a vagina is a woman. That's all people were pointing out, and as this person just couldn't handle that, I was just like, when will this stop? So again, quite clearly transphobic rhetoric. Rawlinson saw that, decided, you know what, I like that, hit like on that. And then Phoenix came along and noticed the fact that this had happened. So, yes. They also... Sorry. Phoenix...
Hang on, sorry,
go on.
Before we continue with the story, I have a rant about some of the things that Rawlinson said. Oh, sure. Is it okay if I rant?
Yes, go ahead, yes.
Okay. So, Rawlinson, he claimed that he did not like anti-trans tweets, but pro-woman tweets. And he said, any councillor policing my Twitter feed for posting from feminists would be very busy. And this immediately pissed me off as someone who has actually experienced misogyny and has actually experienced problems from there not being enough feminism, and has seen a whole bunch of people who act like they're really into feminism and do fuck all that's feminist. I thought, I have to investigate this. So I scrolled through Rawlinson's tweets for a fair bit by Twitter standards, and completely unsurprisingly, I could not find any tweets about women's rights or issues that did not somehow include trans people. Because that is the thing you can do, is you can talk about women's issues without shoehorning trans women in there. For example, a huge issue is that women are not included in medical trials. There are no crash test dummies, or there's maybe one crash test dummy in the whole world that's modeled on the typical female body. Women aren't included in smartphone development for things like voice recognition, fitting the phone for hand size and stuff. So these are things that don't even have anything to do with the usual talking points of domestic violence and restrooms and all that is very easy to get tangled up in trans issues that he could be posting about if he really cared about feminism. There was none of that. It was just the usual rubbish. But what I did find very early on in my search was him tweeting, I just misgendered my cat. I may get impeached. So I just have to ask, Martyn, can you show me the feminism in that? Where's the feminism? Can you show me? Because I don't see feminism.
Wow.
But you know what?
He actually said that himself. He wasn't retweeting anything.
Oh, no, he tweeted that.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. See, I don't see feminism, but I do see transphobia. And in case you can't see the transphobia, in case no one will explain the transphobia to you, Martyn, let me just spell it out for you. See, you're insinuating that trans people think misgendering a pet is equally as violent as inciting a Nazi coup. That is the transphobia. Do you understand now that I've explained that to you, Martyn?
Let's see if I can...
See, the thing is, and you have this later on in your notes, I believe, that Cllr Adair said that, there's a problem with trans people being murdered, because there is. And, sorry, I'm not sure if that was it. I'm very tired, I'm sorry. Cllr Adair said something to provoke Martyn that I did not put in my notes because I'm not very clever. And Rawlinson said that Cllr Adair likes to brand anyone who doesn't agree 100% with their views anti-trans or transphobic. Oh no, I remember now. It was calling him out for liking the tweets. That was what it was. So when I saw this thing of, oh, if you don't agree with me 100%, you're anti-trans or transphobic, I saw that and I was thinking, sir, this is a Wendy's. Because the thing is, remember, the tweet, one of the tweets was someone saying they don't give permission to have the word woman appropriated. If you don't understand, here's what this sounds like to trans ears. Imagine if every single episode of the trans agenda and every single Essence of Thought video was just us complaining about how horrible misgendering is. Imagine if we never talked about Gender GP, Bell v Tavistock, World Rugby, violent hate crime, or even Cyberpunk 2077 and the breadtube transphobia thing. Mm-hmm. Imagine if we never talked about that, if it was all just complaining about how misgendering is the worst possible thing you can do. That is basically what he's doing, except at least if we did that, we wouldn't be putting any specific demographic in the crosshairs. Mm-hmm. Like, that is how unbelievably petty this is and how, needlessly divisive and bigoted and violent it is. And then if someone says, hey, that's a bit of a problem, apparently that is being intolerant of someone not agreeing 100%. It's completely ridiculous.
The thing about the cat tweet is actually it's post all this happening. He did it on the 14th of January. I've just shown it on screen. So again, Labour's done nothing to tackle the transphobia problem, and now he feels emboldened to do it. He feels like he can do it, and no one's going to call him out on it. He can just get away with it. This is exactly what I was talking about, and this is exactly what Powerful was talking about. He can just do whatever he wants now. He knows no one's going to call him out on the fucking transphobia at this point. Anyway, we should actually get back to the timeline of the story.
Sorry.
So
no, okay, just one thing quickly. Okay, sorry, just on the feminism thing with him using feminism as a shield. He's not actually talking about any feminist issues. It's all just trans women being bad because he says so. But of course, he did end up talking about the real issues when it suited him, which I believe you're about to get to, so I'll let you do that.
Anyway, yes, but Phoenix rightfully called this out. They stated that, quote, Preston Labour Cabinet member Martyn Rawlinson liking anti-trans post when we recently unanimously passed a trans motion at council supporting reforming the GRA, Gender Recognition Act. Members of the trans community are being killed around the world, yet this councillor has no issues liking, end quote. To which Rawlinson responded with, quote, less than one trans person here is murdered in this country. 2 women a week are murdered by a partner or an ex. Why doesn't, why doesn't Phoenix Adair unblock me and debate it properly? End quote. Changed the name there, because I don't know if that's a dead name there. I don't know if they're using a dead name. And
of course the answer is because there is no debate.
Yeah. The thing is here with the murder issue is this is one that I actually covered very recently, I think in my Blair White video. So if you want to know more about murder rates and that sort of discussion, go watch my Blair White video. when it comes to murder rates and trans people, there is a lot of underreporting, and this is something that goes back to the beginning of sociology. Underreporting on deaths is an issue that relates to is an issue that relates to the foundation of sociology as a science. Imar Durkheim, who was a sociologist, one of the founding fathers of sociology, he wanted to prove these things that he called social facts. And to do that, he decided to look into suicide rates and wanted to show that different demographics had different rates of suicide. And the results he came up with is Catholics had the lowest rate of suicide. And he came up with all these hypotheses as to why this was the case, you know, community, you know, meaning and all this. Later researchers came along and they investigated it and they found that actually no. What it was is, in Catholicism, suicide is a grave sin. So coroners were very unlikely to record suicide as suicides out of like empathy for the family. They were more likely to rule accidental death than with other demographics. What's more is there was evidence that families were destroying, you know, stuff such as suicide notes left by family members, even messing with the scene of death, just so the rest of the family wouldn't come to know that the family member had committed suicide. Now, what does this have to do with trans people? Why am I going on about all this? Well, when it comes to trans people, post-death misgendering and erasure is a big thing. You know, we see it so often that when someone dies, the trans community has to fight tooth and nail to have them respected as they lived. We see this historically, we see this in contemporary news. So the number of deaths is going to be underreported. That's the first thing. But regardless of that, when it comes to like certain communities, their death rates are much, much higher. This is mostly American stuff, but it does cross over to the UK as well. I believe black trans women have a death rate which, from the lowest estimate, is twice as high as the general population murder rate, to, I think it was 25, it might even be higher than that, 25 times higher murder rate. So, you know, it's quite... Sorry, go on.
You don't even have to get into all that. Here are a couple more reasons why more women are killed than trans people, or at least according to the statistics. Well, one is you can't tell that someone is trans by looking, but you can tell that they're a woman by looking, which goes into both targeting and also just whether or not the deaths are accurately reported in the statistics. But also, don't know if you know this, but there are more cis women in any country than there are trans people as a whole.
I
don't know if people were aware of that.
And it's kind of like there's this whole big thing about getting birth certificates changed in the UK that the trans community has been going on about for a while that might help them being recorded in murder statistics. You know, the whole GRA reform. It's almost like that's been ongoing. So, you know, there's so many reasons to explain this. But what's important is the fact that hate crime against trans people has spiked. And this isn't just people being killed who happen to be trans or assaulted who happen to be trans. This is people being targeted because they are trans. And that is also a distinction to make.
And also, like, it just doesn't matter because these are different issues.
Yeah. And
you know,
the whole idea...
We can't talk about this because did you know that insert anything here is a problem? We can't talk about this because climate change. No, we can talk about multiple problems at once.
It's typical whataboutism. There's also this whole, you know...
That's the word, which I definitely didn't forget, such a simple word.
Unblock me and debate me. Which is like... This is a dirtbag left sort of approach to things. Unblock me and debate me. It's like,
not even a dirtbag left approach to things. It's a teenager's approach to things.
Yeah. And again, it's really quite disheartening to see this going on because these are the people that are supposed to be, you know, working for us. That's why they're elected. They're not above us. They're civil servants. They work for us. And this person, Martyn, just they don't seem to be able to, you know, act like an adult in this regard. However, everything escalated when Lancs Live then reported on the emerging story, with Rawlinson tweeting out, quote, "If anyone at Live Lancs had an ounce of decency, they would take this article down. It was revenge journalism for me trashing a previous article. Liking tweets is not a story, and the writer has used poor Phoenix, who has had to lock," changing redaction here, "their account because of the, albeit deserved, backlash." Sorry, it was a very broken tweet there. I did double check, and I asked Phoenix and everything. Their pronouns are strictly they, them, from what I've seen. So, like, you know, not only are they declaring transphobic abuse of Phoenix deserved, but they're misgendering them at the same fucking time. Like, if you know that you're coming under scrutiny for your actions, at the very least, you'd expect them to do like the whole fake it thing. But no, they just go ahead and misgender this other counsellor. Yes, say them. I did check. I did check. Like, it's absolutely astonishing, and clearly they seem to get away. They seem to think they can get away with it. And this whole story was brought to my attention by Kelly Buzzy of Planet Transgender, who also acknowledged the facts that 14 teenagers have been arrested on the 16th and 17th of December for a spate of transphobic assaults in the Lancaster area, in Lancaster, a mere half-an-hour drive from Preston, highlighting that Rawlinson's comments come at a time where trans people are the targets of abuse, and like it's local. Now, these assaults did not occur because of you know, Rawlinson's comments, but it is all links. Like, this is the sort of environment that Rawlinson is encouraging when he encourages like dogpiling of fellow counsellors and justifies it as deserved. And
you
now,
know, when he tries to make people act like transphobia is a respectable position that needs to be debated.
Mm-hmm.
And transphobic tweets are actually feminist tweets. Don't you know how feminism works, you feminist trans people?
Yeah. On top of this, Kelly added that, quote, Gallup, UK's LGBT plus anti-violence charity 2020 poll reveals that transphobic hate crime has doubled in the last 3 years, and only 1 in 7 trans people are reporting their experiences. 4 out of every 5 trans people in the UK experienced a form of trans hate crime in the last 12 months, Pink News reported, end quote. Again, the abuse is ongoing, and this is how counsellors are acting. Like, surely expecting lead by example isn't too much. All I can say is I hope this fucking awareness training comes quickly, because they very clearly needed it. Interesting thing to note, when I reached out to Phoenix, they let me know that they were involved with giving suggestions on the motion that was passed on the 10th. That was the motion about extending awareness training to include trans experiences. However, sadly, talking to Phoenix, there has been no further action on the council as far as I'm aware. Rawlinson continues to like, retweet, and as we've just seen from the cat tweet, actually make transphobic posts themselves, and it just seems to have dropped out of the news completely. The last articles were the ones on Planet Transgender. After that, the whole thing just goes silent, which is like a really disappointing state of affairs. You know, you'd expect this sort of thing to be dragged out, but it just hasn't been. I'd just like to pause to thank. I did hear the tune, but I totally forgot about it. Thank you, Corvaday, for your $5 donation. It is much appreciated. But yeah, so I don't know if you really have any comments on that you'd like to go over. I was I was at least hoping that like this would continue to be discussed and we'd hear about things happening in the council, etc., in the papers. But no, it just seems to have been dropped, and as seen, Rawlinson just feels he can get away with it now, and it's every trans person, not just in that area but around the UK, who is aware of this. You know, they're seeing this going on. This is the standard of what we're being shown.
Apparently Rawlinson's tweeted about banning gender talk from schools.
Okay, so we're going back to the Thatcher era. Like, the fact that we've got a Labour member talking about Thatcher-esque, you know, policies, that's disturbing.
But don't you understand, when it's transphobia, then it's a leftist position, worthy of respect.
And like, I know I'm going to get accused of being a Lib Dem supporter, and it's like, I was at the 2014 protest over the Lib Dem Conservative coalition fucking us over. I remember the chants, which I'm not going to sing because, again, we have Phoenix here, and I imagine we have other Lib Dem followers.
Can you tell me the chants after the stream?
I will tell you the chant after the stream.
Yes.
But like, I am not a Lib Dem supporter. Unless they make extreme changes, I will never be a Lib Dem supporter.
Can I
but
just,
on the same
in light
basis, I'm not going to be a Labour supporter until they actually start fixing their fucking problems.
I know this is somewhat tangential, but in light of the stuff that has happened the past week on Twitter, can people please stop making claims about Ethel when they've clearly never seen or spoken to her ever?
Yeah, I got called.
It's very weird, you people making claims about someone you've never heard anything about.
I got called a trans medicalist the other day. It's just like, not a trans medicalist.
You got called. You were accused of trying to make atheists look bad to prove God exists.
But yeah, so it's just fucking disappointing. Like this feeds into you know, Rosie Duffield and everything that's going on over there, and the whole Labour Party's unwillingness to actually rein it in. This is something I fucking admired about the Jeremy Corbyn leadership, and that was the fact that when there was, you know, transphobia, it was being tackled in areas. It wasn't being tackled everywhere. It could have been done a lot faster. But like when what was her name? I'm trying to remember. Venice Allen. When Venice Allen stalked a trans teenager who was a young MP, like they got removed. They got rejected from the party and just let us, remove us all, sort of thing. So, you know, that was good to see, and it was good to see that they were actually trying to work alongside, you know, trans folk, trans voices, etc., and try to improve things. Keir Starmer comes in and just, no. Which is really interesting considering how Keir Starmer's trying to pretend like the anti-Semitism problem ended with Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, when, as we discussed in show 6, a lot of the rhetoric used in transphobia intersects quite nicely with the rhetoric of white supremacy. You know, it's just really, it's just a whole fucking mess in the UK at the moment. There's no party I want to be part of as a left-wing trans person. You know, not that it matters much, seeing as I'm in exile in India at the moment. But yes, so it's just, it's fucking depressing that at the moment I don't see much of a future politically, because
I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. There's scarcely a day that goes by that I'm not extremely relieved that you're in India instead of the UK. Because as a trans person, you are safer in India.
Debatable. You've not been here.
Yeah, I'm mostly thinking about the things like the Tavistock thing and the gender GP thing.
But I can't exactly cover much of like the fuck ups that the Indian government's doing over here because they have sedition laws.
Touche.
So if I say too much, especially being an expat, I'm kind of easy to track down. And we saw what happened at the student protest. There was a German student who took part in the protest, and they had their visa revoked. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll say it another way. The fact that it's even debatable that you're safer in India shows that the UK isn't as great as they pretend to be.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have anything final you'd like to add to that story?
Not that I can think of. The only thing about my notes that I didn't manage to fit in there was based on everything we've seen from Rawlinson, it's almost as if his feminism is all about hating trans people. What a surprise. No one was aware of this. This is a revelation. You're all shocked.